Welcome, everyone, to the March edition of Conversations with Archbishop Joseph Kurtz. As always, if you have any questions or comments you want to share with us, please do so online by writing to us at conversations@archlu.org. Archbishop, welcome to March.
Well, it's good to be here with you, Brian, and the season of Lent is right on the threshold.
That's
so
right.
I can't wait.
That's right. You know, we talked about a couple times this year, we've talked about that in 2014, we'd be involved in archdiocesan strategic planning.
Yeah.
We've been doing strategic planning in this diocese on a regular routine for over 20 years now. About every 5 years, as you know, we take some time to take a temperature check, an assessment of what's going on, and identify our priorities. And all during the fall and into this spring, we've been having meetings and conversations and data gathering to get a picture of who we are as an archdiocese and asking the primary question of planning, which is, what are our priorities? It's not what should we do ever, but it's what's the most important thing for us to do next, and that we call strategic planning. So, as you know, we've talked to the pastoral council, we've talked to the priest council, we've asked parish councils to give us feedback. We even put a survey online with what they call Survey Monkeys,
exactly,
and got lots of data. So we've heard from lots of folks, and that's what we're busy doing these days, is preparing our next strategic plan.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you so much for all the leadership you give, and it's been a privilege for me to be part of it. You know, in many ways, I know we need a product, and come, I guess, September or so, we'll have a specific plan in hard print to share with people. But in some ways, the process is as important, maybe even more important than the actual final product. And I was reflecting a little bit because I knew you were going to ask me about it. And I was thinking, what energy. I wish people who were viewing could be at some of these meetings, because there's such energy that is almost harnessed when people come together in order to talk about their love of Christ, their love of their faith, and their love of the church. It really is a great, great gift. You know, in many ways, also, people talk about people being invested in something and engaged in something.
Yes,
I know you like to use the word engaged, but there's a great investment that I see when people are asked their opinion and when they're given a context. That's a great thing. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, what's especially good for me is as I have a chance to listen, first of all, it makes me hear how the church teaching and how so much important things to our faith is being heard by people. It's one thing to preach, it's another thing to know what's being heard, as St. Paul says. And also, I find my own thinking gets refined and shaped, you know, because a pastoral style and a pastoral initiative gets shaped very much by that. Now, you've been very much involved in the roll-up-the-sleeve things, and I know we said it won't be till September that we'll have kind of a public statement, we hope. But what's your thoughts? What are on the horizon now in terms of what you think will be some of the priorities that will get refined over these coming months?
Yeah, there's a lot of great information that came in. We did some data, which is just you count people and you count numbers and you look at trends. But the richest material, as you suggested there, the church in action, is when people are in dialogue with each other and in conversation with you and sometime on a computer screen, write down answers to questions about when they think about their faith, they think about the church, the love they have for Jesus. What is it they're asking for us to focus on as a community? And we've heard a lot of, and name some of them for you. Catholic identity. Well, one of the things the Catholic people of the diocese are saying is, help us continue to explore what does it mean to be Catholic.
So, and that was a previous one, wasn't it?
It was.
So it remains something we still have a lot of work to do on.
Well, they told us in feedback that things like Renew Why Catholic and those kinds of things have helped. But help us understand, how to be Catholic in today's time and space. That's the first. The second topic, won't come as a surprise to you, is the new evangelization.
Absolutely.
You know, starting with Pope Benedict and on to Pope Francis and the local initiatives here, people are talking evangelization. And what they mean by that, according to what they're telling us, is everything from outreach, how can the church go out, but also how can they themselves so bring Jesus into their life they can't help but talk about it.
Yeah,
how can they express it? So evangelization.
That's a gospel way to say it. I'm thinking of Jesus with the woman at the well, and she just it spontaneously
Can't help
told
it.
So it's sharing that message. Yeah, that's great.
So they're asking us to do more of that. Third thing they're talking about with us is what we call diversity. They've sometimes talked about cultural diversity, and that's big, that's still on people's minds, but they've talked about age diversity. And the number one group being talked about everywhere we turn these days is roughly the age group from 20 to 30. We call them young adults.
I remember when I was in that group.
Yeah, I do too. It gets longer ago every day.
It does, it sure does.
So
Yeah.
that whole group is very much on people's minds, and how can we serve the diverse church? There are growing ethnic diversity, which is evident in many parts of our diocese and many of our parishes, but also the diversity of who our people are, the different family constructs, the different people we need to be present to in our community. So that diversity. The fourth thing, another one of your favorites, is vocations.
Yeah.
What about who's going to be the leaders of the church? Reaching out, making sure they're doing, the last strategic plan, when it was written, as you remember the numbers we always like to talk about, we had 3 seminarians, and today we have 17. And the last plan helped us come up with ways to do that. The present plan, the new plan, I suspect, will give even more energy towards that question. And the fifth one...
And lay leaders, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's one of the great gifts of our church, so that development. So you're right, that's a great priority.
We've, in the last 5-6 years of the last plan, many new youth ministers, new music people, new leaders in other capacities, but also, of course, are very valued, our priests. And the fifth topic we've talked about on this show in the past is Catholic education. Both schools, which is a hot topic, and people will finally see the results of all the planning we've done in the past 18 months. The new plan will now timeline and announce the initiatives, as well as adult education, formation of all people throughout their lifespan, that faith isn't something you learn in a book and then live out. It's an always learning activity.
Wow.
And you study it, but you also grow it together with it. So how does the parish today, and how does the church in general, educate people in the faith today? So those are some of the major themes that
Brian, it's exciting. I know I've said this before. Parishes, while they don't necessarily have to have the exact same priorities, tend so much to mirror what happens on a diocesan level, and so also do we find the same thing on a national level with the church. Thanks for this chance. We'll look forward to September, and I hope that those who are listening to this program or viewing it will have an opportunity to go to our website and find out more. So thanks. I know the time goes by real quickly.
It's really important for us to always thank all the people who took the time to answer questionnaires and surveys and go to meetings, because this process works because our people are invested in it, and that's great. So I'm glad we could talk about this, and no doubt we'll be talking about it more. That brings us to the end of this first segment of March Conversations with Archbishop Joseph Kurtz.